going? Oh, yes, we are. Hear it?
Hey.
Oh, there we go. And as always, we start out like a couple of rank amateurs. So, number one, you can't fix stupid, but doggone it, ignorance is a lifestyle choice.
Yeah, but boy, isn't it nice to some days just to wake up ignorant in a soft, warm bed and with food to eat. And of course, since I'm waking up ignorant, the food should be like donuts, potato chips, popcorn, all the stuff that's bad for you.
Excuse me, but isn't that health food?
Yeah. Health food.
Look, I got news for you, man. I did not expect to make it this long. So I eat a lot of donuts. I eat a lot of popcorn. I have my alcohol now and then. And I got to tell you, as far as I'm concerned, hey, I'm 71, man. And so I'm doing something right.
Well, the amazing thing is that I have a friend whose uncle was 84, and this was over 15 years ago. And the dude was drinking every day and smoking a cigar every day. And he was healthy as a rock, And it's like, if your genes are the right way, you're good. So, don't go and buy genes from the store. Get good genes when you're born.
That's exactly right. That's the whole thing. There's a whole series of books by the science fiction writer Robert Heinlein that are based on the fact that a super, super rich dude, like back years ago, said, he started a foundation to prolong life. Well, they decided to kind of pervert the message and say, well, what we will do is figure out how to make people live longer, and they found the easiest way at the time to do it was through genetic mixing and properly feeding the proper genetics here and there to make people live for hundreds and hundreds of years. And the funny thing, and it makes sense if you think about it, the biggest problem they ran into is that after a certain point, the brain had to find another way to remember things, because there is a finite amount of space, and it wasn't the storage of the things, it was the retrieval of the information that used to give the people trouble.
I read that book about Methuselah's children and how they went into space because all the short-lived people figured didn't think it was genetics. They figured they had some treatment, and they left because they were the people who did genetic things would die, would get killed. They'd torture them. And then when they finally came back centuries later, the people left on Earth had figured out how to do it, by chemicals.
Well, that was one of the books, but there's a whole bunch of them. One central figure was called Lazarus Long.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the same series of books. I don't know if most people remember. Hollywood's run out of ideas, but that's partly because they came up with so many good ideas in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Twilight Zone, Night Gallery, a lot of things like that. Anyhow, there was one where somehow they discover, and this guy didn't know it himself, he gets hurt in an accident. It turns out that his genetics are such that he will completely heal himself. And this rich guy finds out, and he's dying. So he sends people after because he wants to catch the guy whose body will heal itself and take all his blood and give it to the guy that's dying so he'll live. And it's kind of interesting. It was sort of like The Fugitive.
Yeah.
But based, it was the same storyline, just based on a little bit different thing from the beginning. And it was quite an entertaining show. I remember watching it quite a bit as a kid. So.
Yeah, I liked all that stuff. It's all about living longer now, but then you got to look at your quality of life. If I can't come into the studio once every couple weeks and make a fool out of myself, life's just not worth living,
Well, see, we have that discussion off and on, and I agree with you completely. It isn't the length, it's the quality. Some people, by the time they're 20, 25 years old, they've lived a good full life. Some haven't. Some people could continue to fulfill. You look at Mother Teresa. She lived in some of the worst health conditions ever, and yet she made it till her 70s helping other people. Sometimes that's what it is. It's one of the things that the researchers have found that keeps people going for longer than you would expect is to be involved with things outside of yourself.
Yeah, I had a lady I know, her son, he got muscular dystrophy real bad, and he had to move back in the home. And she was in her 80s, and she's very vibrant and healthy. And she looked at me and she said, I'm probably this healthy because I'm taking care of him.
Again, I hate this machine. Sorry. I'm sorry, machine. But it's true. If you get all wrapped up in yourself, there's only so much there, and eventually you basically run out of ideas, run out of things, run out of you.
Yeah.
I mean, we do this outside ourselves. We have some other comedy things we do.
Yeah.
Right after this, we're going over to a Boilermaker class, right?
Whoa, it's boiler service class.
Wait a minute. You told me we were going to learn how to make Boilermakers.
Oh, well, it's how to fix boilers, but nothing about the Boilermakers. Maybe, though, on the way over, we should stop and get some beer and vodka so we can have a Boilermaker.
Well, that's a language I understand. Along with English, that's another language I understand. So I was just hoping we were talking about going somewhere and just tying one on. But hey, if you don't want to, I get it.
Well, I would like to go to Taiwan sometime and see that country before the Red Chinese grab it.
Oddly enough, that reminds me of a joke, but in this overly sensitive, oh, poor me, I'm a victim, political and social climate. Unfortunately, I can't make any jokes about it because everybody's so ready to be offended. Whatever happened to, hey, grow up, they're going to make fun of you,
Yeah.
But instead, nowadays, everybody's a victim. Oh, poor me, it rained, it's not my fault.
Well, I'm hoping to learn how to fracture my personality. I want to have a split personality because one of my personalities, I want to be a transvestite. One of my personalities, I want to be gay. One of my personalities, I want to be a conservative religious guy so the two guys can fight. And then some other ones, I want to be a snowflake. And I want to be all kinds of different personalities. And of course, got to have a one who's OCD about keeping clean and all that, and then have another guy who's a slob. And then if I do that, see, I'm going to be so entertaining, because I can flip from one personality to the next, and everybody will just say, well, gosh darn, that's not boring watching him.
Well, it won't be boring, but I'll tell you what. I've seen most of those personalities, especially the one where you, what kind of flake?
Snowflake.
Oh, a snowflake. I thought you just a regular flake.
Yeah, well, that too. I was flaky lakey when I was a kid.
Well, Oh, my name's Arthur, so you can imagine where people went with that.
Yeah. In the 60s, they called you Arthur Penhallow from WRIF.
And the scary part is that guy is still around.
Wow.
I don't listen to Riff much anymore, but not that long ago. And the funny thing is, every time he had a contract coming up, he would go on vacation. And he always went on vacation to Hawaii, and he was always somewhere where they couldn't get a hold of him. And then they would fight with him for a week or two about his contract. And he's laying on the beach, getting a tan, and just getting the sun and laughing about everything. And then he'd come back to a pay raise.
Yeah, geez, I should have learned from him. It didn't work that well for me. But I've had fun. Today I got to install a humidifier in my own house for the boss, the wife. And I got my son to do most of the work. He's 21 now. So, I'm getting to be a good politician. I mostly just stood there and watched, although I did tell him the right way to do things. If I was a politician, I would have told him the wrong way to do things.
If you were a politician, you would have lied. But we won't get into that, will we, today, even though it is Election Day?
Election Day.
I don't want to get started on politicians.
I voted several days ago as an absentee ballot voter, and that's why I really want to have split personality so I can, maybe each personality can vote,
Well, my understanding is that down in Louisiana, when Huey Long was in power decades ago, they used to have a phrase: vote early, vote often.
Yeah, it is crazy, isn't it? And I know in New York City, more than several decades ago, they did that. They had buses come and pick people up, and they had a keg in the bus, and they'd bring them down and they'd vote, and then they'd bring them back, and then they'd come back a few hours later and with another keg and they'd vote. I mean, maybe it wasn't the right thing to do, but at least they were having keggers and having fun. There's got to be something said for having fun.
Well, if you can't have fun, what's the point even breathing? So
yeah,
that also reminds me, like back in the 20s or 30s, they were the government was investigating political corruption, and they had a guy in a witness stand, and they said, "Did you accept a bribe from Party A?" And he says, "Well, yes, I did." And they said, "Well, did you accept a bribe from Party B?" And he said, "Yes, I did." And the lawyer was a little confused, and he said, "Well, then, how did you vote?" And the man said, "Well, I voted my conscience."
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I think they should. Maybe we should make bribery legal, but still keep it illegal so you don't know if they voted like you paid them to.
Well, they have a saying that we have the best government money can buy.
Yeah, that's true. And so it shows you money can't buy too much, huh? But then John Kennedy didn't run for president to make money.
And that's another thing. He once jokingly told his father, "Don't buy one more vote than you have to."
Yeah, and from what I understand, they bought enough in Chicago that put him over the top. But then, look, he was an honorable man. And as soon as they found out in Washington how honorable he was, they arranged to get him assassinated.
Well, we won't get into that. I happen to know a guy named Rick, and I have another one named Jim too, and we have gone round and round and round about all this stuff. And they pull out the pictures of the grassy knoll and the unexplained burst of smoke and all the other stuff. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. I think some people do, but they're not talking. So I'm thinking maybe just kind of move on and don't worry about it.
Yeah, because if we really found out what happened and we had the proof, we'd probably disappear.
That's what happens quite often. It's scary, and I'm trying to tell a few jokes, make a few people laugh, and hopefully make you think along with the laughing. Because if you don't, again, if you can't laugh, what's the point in being on this side of the grass?
Yeah, and and really though, I think I'm going to stay on this side of the lawn. When I die, I'm going to go with the Native American style, and I'm going to get 4 big poles and a blanket, and I'm just going to have them lay me up, and the birds can land and the crows can land down and eat me up, but if I wake up, I won't wake up under the lawn.
Well, see, it's funny you mention that. I'm a much more of a big believer in the Eskimo way. We're surrounded by Great Lakes. This state is called the Water Wonderland.
Yeah.
And we've got some of these nasty, harsh winters. And even if you don't, it's not that hard. See, the Eskimos, when a person gets too old to help with the tribe, the village, whatever, they will put them on an ice floe and just kind of give them a little shove. Well, I'm thinking that might not be a bad way to go for Michigan because, let's face it, we got a lot of water out here and a lot of spaces. It wouldn't be that much trouble at all.
Yeah, maybe we could start a religion where that's one of our central beliefs. And then it would work because it was our religion. Uh-huh.
You know what? It's funny you mention that because I just noticed, Detroit, Michigan, the Archdiocese of Detroit is encouraging local Catholics to bury loved ones' cremated remains for free on November 2nd. Now, this actually ties in with what we're talking about. I mean, if you cremate it, obviously they've removed the moisture and hopefully your pacemaker and a few other things that will they find explode in when they're burning you.
Yeah.
And even the Catholic Church, which was one of the biggest anti-cremation organizations around for a long time, even they now accept it. And I don't know, to me, you look around, all this beautiful real estate being taken up by gravestones, it kind of makes you wonder if that's just a gravestone farm.
Yeah, now, I kind of agree with the Catholics, but I would have loved to have been the cardinal or bishop who told everybody it was now legal to get cremated, because he'd say, well, we just thought that you'd appreciate heaven more if you experienced a little bit of Hades fire.
I see where you go with that. And it also occurs to me, you get a huge bunch of people together and the way you want to ease into this whole subject, because it is a sensitive subject, you can start out like they used to do on board ship. Light them up.
Well, I'm trying to I'm working on a little line, and I like this, that, well, when I died and saw St. Peter, he told me that I wasn't the best match for going to heaven. He didn't tell me I had to go to the other place. He just told me I wasn't the best match.
You're getting morbid again, John.
Well, no. See, what the story was is then I found out I could work in climate control there, because heaven has air conditioning, and the other place has boilers and fire, and I could work there and keep them both happy, and I always liked making people happy, so I'd fit pretty well in climate control there, and
You worry me, John. You seriously worry me sometimes.
And I'd get to use big pipe wrenches, because the boilers that keep the river of fire going are huge. Well, at least they have to be, I think.
I don't know. We're going to get on a different topic before we keep walking down this road. You and your, I want to run the boilers down in Hades. I'd much prefer being working somewhere else, but then you got to presuppose, do you believe in heaven and hell? Not everyone does. I had a guy working for me years ago that actually considered this to be the punishment aspect of our existence. And I could see from some aspects of how you could look at that way. I mean, look at people with a bad marriage. They sure as heck, they can only go up from here.
It's heck on earth. Yeah, I tend to agree with him. When you think of it, it's really strange, but it kind of works.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I just, in the first place, I don't think people really think of how to phrase this. Most people put that out of their mind. They don't want to think about it, or they've already convinced themselves that they're going straight to heaven. Well, good for you, but you know what? Don't mean you're right.
Well, yeah, but I really think the boiler job would be the best, because I would, hopefully the devil's not listen, because I would conspire to let the boilers break down once a week on Sundays, so the people down there in the hot fire would get a little reprieve on one day a week. That's what I'd want to do. I think that would be a good afterlife, to help other people out like that. And I like working on boilers.
Once again, John, you're getting morbid. Lighten it up. Lighten it up.
Boilers are fun. Okay.
You're a strange man, John.
Okay, you want me to start?
Yeah. Give us one of your Darwins. That was a pretty funny one you were talking about earlier.
Okay, here it is. 2010 South Africa. Pop quiz, class. Do you or don't you go swimming in the crocodile-infested Limpopo? Do or don't leave your friends on the bank of the great gray-green Oliphant River, main tributary of the Limpopo, and swim in the limpid waters not once, not twice, but 3 times the day you are finally devoured by that old crocodile. Let's just say it was a short New Year for Marissa B., 27, a waitress and former swimmer. According to longtime residents, you don't even put a toe in that river. It's teeming with crocodiles and hippos. This local, on her third refreshing dip of the day, didn't have time to scream or struggle. Friends just saw a ripple on the water where seconds before she had been swimming. Oh, did I mention that swimming was strictly prohibited? Police searched for her body with long poles and with chemical detectors known as sniffer dogs, but found nothing. The cycle of life continues. So they, at least she was feeding somebody. The crocodiles need to eat too.
What really gets me about all this is if she was a waitress there, she'd obviously been there for a while. It just, for some reason, some people seem to think they lead a charmed life. There was just somebody in Florida last week that was in the habit of swimming in this lagoon, and then one day she came back without a leg.
Oh, at least she came back.
Well, I don't know for sure. All I'm saying is that they told her there's alligators, crocs, whatever the heck they are. I know they're different, but she said, "Well, I don't care. I swim in there all the time. Nothing bothers me." And guess what? I guess she just didn't have the right condiments on before.
Yeah, now they got those shark suits, the chainmail stainless steel. I guess you could swim with that with a crocodile stuff on, couldn't you? But then
wait a minute, is that as opposed to a shark skin suit?
Oh, no, it's a shark armor. It's chainmail, stainless steel chainmail. And people who swim with the sharks, they go down there and they wear the suits. And they exude so much confidence once they're in the chainmail. The sharks don't attack them. And the amateurs who do get attacked wind up just getting pinched by the shark because their arms still attached. The male protected them. And then they go up and they have another story. Hey, the shark tried to bite me, but I was wearing my lucky suit of armor, so I'm happy.
I obviously have to work on my delivery because you totally didn't get the whole thing about a shark skin as opposed to a shark suit.
Oh, I'm brain dead today, bud. I worked on a humidifier. Well, actually, I oversaw my son, but he's actually getting to be a good worker now. I'm surprised. Oh, I hope he's not listening too.
Well, when you threaten him to quit feeding him, that's probably what what sharpened him up there. Ooh, I'm hungry. I think I'll do a little work.
Yeah. I guess you're right. Food is a great motivator.
Well, I don't know what it is to me. That's pretty darn sure. Oh God, this is terrible.
You want another one?
Yeah, throw another one at us, John.
Okay, tiny electric fence. 2010, Brazil. An electrical discharge made toast of municipal guard Arthur de Azusa Carrero, 47, on Sunday evening. According to police reports, he had installed a tiny electric fence around his car to protect against the frequent robberies that occur in his neighborhood in Belém Pará. Then, direct translation from Portuguese, he forgot that he left the fence on and ended dying from the electric shock. After all, we are all dying, but some in sooner than others. And, that's a shame, They should have let him have the Old West way of dealing with car thieves. You like a horse thief. You either shoot him or string him up from the pole, and after you hang up 3 or 4 guys, the rest of them figure, I'm not stealing that car.
Well, what's funny? Come on, machine. There we go. I have a little bit, having spent time on farms as a kid, I have a little bit of experience. Now, I know these fences, the electric fences, used to be in such a way that when you first touched it, you just get a tingle. But then if you didn't let go, that tingle became a shock, and that shock became a slap in the face. So maybe he should have used that kind of a shock box rather than the one that just zaps you fully 100% at the very beginning. Give yourself a little warning. Oh, yeah, I forgot to turn it off.
Yeah, that's what he should have done because, some guys, I knew a guy, an electrician, of course. Electricians do bad things with electricity. He was working in a factory, and they had a problem with mice, or not mice, rats. And he put a out in the shop. He put a piece of tin with a wire attached to the bottom, and on the other side he had a wire coming down and put a piece of cheese on top of it. And the rat would stand on his hind legs and he'd start eating the cheese. And if he ate too much, that was a big pop, and he was done. So I guess it was like a rat's roulette, take a bite and see if you're lucky. If you take too big of a bite, you're electrocuted.
Number one, first thing occurs to me, you marketed under the slogan, take a bite and say goodnight. Now, the other thing that really bothers me is this. I was an exterminator for a while. And one of the things I learned is that they have what they call an LD50, lethal dose 50. And that's the strength at which whatever the poison is, it will kill 50% of the target population. Well, you have to be careful because the 50% that isn't killed eventually develops an immunity to whatever particular poison you're using. Well, my only thought is, and I'm thinking this because the bug lights, they've actually found that cockroaches had developed the sense so that they can tell when they're getting too close to one of these killing bug lights, and they will not touch it, so they won't kill them. So obviously, we have literally bred a new sense into a vermin that we're trying to eliminate.
Wow.
So what are you going to do when you get to the rat that's smart enough to go in there and take a few nibbles and then take off and come back, take a few more nibbles? Next thing you know, he's going to be walking around like some kind of a superhero, sticking his tail in light sockets just to get a charge.
Yeah, it'll run your electric bill up. Now, you know that LD5050, you know, that's a something else, you know. You can, it's happened in a human, in us humans too. Like, look at the voter pool. 50% of the people do not vote. Isn't that, they put so much BS out on the elections, 50% don't vote, and that's the LD50 going.
Okay, I'm sorry. This machine and I don't get along. I was trying to switch over to you several times. But no, I hate to say it, but I'm starting to wonder if maybe just the BS that is spewing out is that we've become inoculated to it.
Yeah.
You know?
I had so many phone calls. They call up and they say, "Oh yeah, you know, so and so is going to do this bad thing," and then the formula is, "But vote for Mr. So and so, you know, a different guy, this and that," and you know, and then the other one calls up and say, "Mr. This and that did this. Vote for so and so." It's like, I'm just glad the friggin' election's over. No more ads.
You know, it's funny. You're not the first person I've heard say that, but it just amazes me. And again, the way we start this show, ignorance is a lifestyle choice. If the person's never been elected, well, they're not going to do much at all. But if they've been in there too long, and I'm not trying to cast too wide a net, but I've had friends and I've worked with people that were small-time politicians, and they agree when I say, look, if you want to get something done, well, you got to give a little to get a little. And you may go in there with all the best intentions of the world, but because you want to do something good, maybe you have to do something that's a little bit bad so that the other politicians will help you to try to do something you think is good. So eventually, they all basically become corrupt because that's the only way to get things done. Now, I got to stop you, John, because we've only got less than a minute left, and we really should run the credits. So since now I know how to use the machine and make them work.
Well, goodbye, everyone.
We will see you later.